Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to use the throttle and the front brake to ride like a pro on track. Every pro or fast track rider use the same techniques, so I'm going to describe to you how to do it during the different phases of riding on track. To start with, a few important fundamental points. This is going to sound obvious, but the first point is never ever use them together. And this is bringing me to my next point. To go fast around the track, you want to be using either one or the other and limit as much as possible the times where you're not using any. These moments when you're not using either the brakes nor the throttle are called neutral phases. So the idea is to make them as short as possible. Any pro, experienced or fast track rider spends very little time in those phases because at that moment none of the tires, front or rear, are loaded. This means that the bike is basically floating around on the tarmac with very little grip on offer. Now let's take a look at how to use the throttle on track. Before starting to explain what you need to do, let's watch these onboard clips, and please take special notice of my hand position on the throttle. The technique I'm using here is what we call the roll of the throttle, as opposed to holding the throttle solid in your hand. Why do we do this? Well, there's a few reasons. The first one is less effort. It avoids fatigues. It really also avoids arm pump. It's a way to relax your hand on the throttle by rolling it instead of really like be tense and hold the throttle very hard. It also allows to relax in the straights. So once you go in the straight position, your throttle is rolled in your hand, your hands are relaxed, and you can tuck your elbows in and get a breather in the straights before you need to push again on the next braking zones. Really important too to have a top quality pair of gloves. For protection, of course, in case of crash, but also for feel and comfort. Bearing, my glove supplier, has a new glove out that I helped to develop, and I'm really proud of it. It's called the Shooter, and it's absolutely awesome. Just the right amount of material inside the hand to be able to have a good grip and to be precise and control the input of your hand in the best way. The protection is excellent too, with both fingers attached together in case you trap your little finger. We also have a Kevlar reinforcement in the inside in case of crash and sliding, on the front. We have a large carbon protection on the top for heavy impact, and we also have a brand new wrist design with a carbon protection here. It's also longer, it protects your wrist in a better way. So I got myself a brand new teacher's board, as you can see, brand new, proper factory, that one. And we're going to be taking a look now at what is happening during the different riding phases. And we'll take a look as well with onboard footage at what my right hand is doing during those phases. So to start with, we'll take a 180 corner, basic corner, so I can describe to you those phases. There we go. And here we have our racing line. So braking on the left side of the track, braking straight, trail braking, releasing the brake, accelerating progressively, and then flat out again. So basically there is 4 riding phases. The first one is the one I call 100% throttle. So it's the approach to the corner, and it's until we hit a braking marker. Let's say our braking marker is here. So we're 100% throttle, and then suddenly we just start braking. Now remember the neutral phase. This is where you must try to limit it. A common mistake is to roll the throttle off or partially off and wait. That's lost time. As you roll your throttle off, you must hit the brakes immediately. That's why the timing here is really important, and you must adjust your braking markers to be on point. Let's look at this clip now, approaching turn 3 Adelaide hairpin in Manicourt. So you see I go from 100% throttle to maximum braking pressure on the front brake in an instant. As soon as I hit my braking marker, there is no neutral phases at all. It's 100% braking. Phase number 2, braking straight. Now this phase starts when you roll off the throttle, and you're going to brake straight really strong here until about that point. Now that point is very important, because when the bike is straight, this is where you can apply the most brake pressure. This phase is where the deceleration is greatest. Depending on what bike you use, what tires, you can hit peak deceleration levels of 1.5 to 2 Gs. Now if you look at this clip at the same corner, the maximum brake pressure straight away that I apply to make the most of the initial braking opportunity. That strong maximum pressure is maintained all the way here until I start leaning the bike. You will see some small variation, but this is because the bike is lifting in the rear or sliding, and I'm just trying to control this. But here is where you make the most of your braking by braking really hard when the bike is straight. Phase number 3, trail braking. So this is a famous one, and it's not one that's easy to understand or to do in a good way. So you've gone through the phase where you're braking really hard straight, no problem there. And now your corner is approaching, and it's time to start leaning the bike. So what's happening is, because you're leaning, there is less grip in the front. So your front tire cannot take as much abuse as it was taking in phase 2. That said, you must carry on braking, because trail braking is going to help you to turn. It's going to help you close the turn, and I'm going to explain to you why. If, for example, you're releasing the brake and getting on throttle point is about here, if you start trail braking here and going into the corner, releasing your front brake early, so stop trail braking about there, what will happen is 2 things. The first one is that your front is going to pop up because you're not loading it anymore. So you will get less grip from your front tire, and this could be a problem. It could cause a crash. If you also release your brake and your front popping up, you're changing the geometry of your bike, and your bike suddenly does not want to turn anymore. Your bike wants to go straight. It wants to understeer. So this is not good either, because naturally what you would do, the instinct here, because the bike doesn't want to turn anymore, you're going to lean more. So you will end up leaning more with a geometry of bike that is not good, or not the best anyway, to keep turning, and you have less load on the front tire, less grip. So you're taking more risk by doing this, and potentially you could end up on the floor because you're not trail braking. I know many people say you shouldn't trail brake because braking with leaning is not good and the tire can't take it. Well, actually, this is wrong. Trail braking helps effectively to turn, and all you have to do is be gentle with the front brake. The idea behind this is the more lean, the less front brake pressure. But you must be gentle, so as soon as you start leaning, you release your front brake pressure, holding it still a little bit until you go into the corner, and until it's time to release your front brake and get on the throttle. Now let's look at this clip in Adelaide corner of me riding my JSXR, and you will see me trail braking until very late into the corner. Phase number 4, releasing the brake and getting back on the throttle. Now what you must do here, so once you finish trail braking, release your front brake, get on the throttle gently but as soon as possible. This is to avoid another time, you remember the neutral phase, you don't want to leave the bike floating around. These actions will transfer weight from the front to the rear of the bike as you release your brake and touch the throttle. This will give you rear grip, it will help you to turn, it will help you as well to point the bike out of the turn. Apply the throttle gradually as you reduce leaning. So it's basically the opposite as if when you were coming in with the trail braking, you are releasing your brake progressively, where here we start from a very small opening and then we're going to accelerate progressively as we reduce the leaning. The more you reduce the leaning, the more throttle you can apply. Until eventually you reach the point where you can open 100%, which is the best point. You can just tuck your elbows in and enjoy the speed of your bike. So I'm going to show you now what it looks like at full speed. So this corner is Adelaide corner in Manicourt. It's a good corner to use as an example because it's a very fast approach, very hard braking straight, very hard trail braking as well using the front end of the bike. Then it's a very quick transition from releasing the brake to get back on the throttle because it's a slow corner. It must be done quick not to lose any time. It looks a bit aggressive the way I do it, but it's actually not. The inputs are not. The inputs are soft, which is releasing the brake and get back on the throttle. It's just fast, so it looks aggressive. Now please pay attention closely to my position on the throttle, the way I roll it, especially in the approach and the exit. You can also take a special interest in the way I trail brake and release the brake and control this release. And then finally, please pay attention to the way I open the throttle on the corner exit. You will see the power is applied gently, and this is how I do that as I'm picking up the bike as well. I'm just reducing the leaning of the bike to be able to use more power. And so we do this process all over again comes the next corner. Yes, a fundamental point is that even though there is loads of different corners on loads of different tracks all around the world, these phases remain the same. The riders are just going to adapt their riding style and spend more or less time in all those phases. The last point I wanted to talk about is the most common mistakes. Thanks to the hundreds of videos I received during lockdown when I did this project of trying to help track the riders and give some advice, I can give you an idea of the most common areas where track day riders can improve. Number one, you must go 100% in the straights, 100% throttle, and many riders don't do it. So here, I mean, I can understand, I get it. The bikes, the modern bikes, they are very fast, and it's actually not easy to hold them. They wheelie a lot, and they're just really fast, even completely standard. But you must do that because improving your lap times or doing some good lap times on track, it's about using the power. And okay, it's about using the braking as well. But if you use the power, if you use 100% throttle, you will improve your lap time. So my tip on this is to short shift. I've given this tip before and I give it again. Say you get into the straight and you can't hold it 100%. Hold it 100%, but don't use all the revs. Shift a little bit before, and you can do that on all the gears. So you short shift a little bit, and then lap after lap, you try and improve, stay 100%, but try and raise the revs and shift a little bit later and a little bit later until you finally find the limit. This is a good way of learning 100% throttle in the straight. Number two, the neutral phases. So this is really important, and it's a big part of riding fast on track. So what I've seen a lot on those videos mainly is a big delay from when you roll the throttle off at the end of the straight. So you get to the end of the straight, roll the throttle off partially or completely, wait for like half a second, 1 second, even more sometime, and then start braking. So all this neutral phase here is lost time, and this is not good for riding on track. So what you want to do, basically the idea is on track you must always be as well accelerating or braking. So all these neutral phases, you must try and make them as short as possible. And this is to do with your braking markers. So please, lap by lap, try to adjust your braking markers and try not to leave any dead time, any neutral phases from the moment you roll the throttle off and hit the brakes. Number 3, this is to do with a neutral phase again. It's releasing your front brake long before it's time to get back on the throttle. So this has a double negative effect. It unloads the front tire, offering less grip, and it also makes the front fork pop up, so the bike will understeer. So you will have less ability to turn. So try braking effectively, it helps you turning, and you must try and do that until it's time to get back on the throttle. Even if it's a very slight pressure on the front brake, at least you're not releasing it, making it pop up and unloading that grip, making the bike understeer. So please try to reduce that neutral phase by holding the front brake a little bit longer into the corner. Gently, of course, but still hold it a little bit longer. And number 4, the throttle. So when you get back on the throttle, many riders do it very aggressively. And this is really not good. So you don't want to do that. When you release your front brake, get on the throttle, you must be gentle. The first touch has to be as gentle as possible. And you must start opening gradually and progressively. No like going like that on the throttle. I mean, if you do that, you will end up in trouble. This is not good. It's dangerous. It's not efficient either. Even if you got electronics that can save it, it will be inefficient. The electronics will kick in. It will not give you any power. The bike will just jerk. It just won't be good. So the correct way of riding there when you get back on the throttle is to be gentle and apply the throttle gradually as you reduce the leaning. Right, that's it for today. I'm going to show you more footage of Manicourt with the camera on my hand so you can see what is going on. Please pay close attention to the very limited time that I spent in neutral phases and the way I roll the throttle as well. You now have all the keys to unlock your potential, so good luck, and if you have any questions, pop them in the comments. See you guys.